Please ask the host to give you permission to record.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm recording. Awesome. All right. All right, everybody. I want to welcome all of you to our training session. We have, this has been a very popular event this year. We actually have more than 4 times the number this year as we did last year, which is really exciting. Please thank you very much for participating in the training session. We're doing this training session because we were asked to. Last year, folks came to our fly-in. We had 60 people on the fly-in. So we had people that, oops, we have more people in the waiting room. Let me let them in. And if you're not on mute, please put yourself on mute. There's some background noise. 2 more people in the waiting room. Okay. Next time I'll figure out a good way of adding people in without interrupting myself. Okay, so last year when we had our event, we had some folks that said, "Hey, we'd like some extra training." So we had 2 people who said that, and I thought, okay, well, that's a good idea. So this year we decided to do an extra session for training. So this session will last an hour and a half. In preparation for the training, hopefully many of you, maybe not all of you, got this FedEx box. And then inside the FedEx box is your scarf. Here's your Center for Lyme Action scarf. Okay, so this is fun. And so, we're going to wear scarves as our kind of our costume. And then you box, you would have this nice packet. And if you open it up, there's materials in there. So here are the materials. Let's see. Okay. And then there's our talking points. And then we've got these are individual pages about the 6 appropriations asks. And then there's a flyer about Center for Lyme Action. If you're new to the organization, you can read all about it there. Okay. So that's that. We have some more people in the waiting room that we're letting in. Okay, so here's our agenda. I'm going to do 10 minutes on welcome. And then we're very fortunate to have 2 guest speakers, Stephanie Vance of Advocacy Associates, and as well as Lincoln Clapper. And Lincoln
oh well, don't worry about it.
Advocacy.
Bonnie, are you able to mute everyone?
Yeah.
This is weird. I'm supposed to be, but I can't see it.
Are you recording this?
And we are recording it. Yep, we are recording it, and we'll make that available. Okay. All right, so here's our agenda. So Stephanie and Lincoln are both from Advocacy Associates. They're experts at advocacy and how to be a good advocate. So they're going to do a couple of presentations. One is about effective advocacy. We're following a lot of the guidelines that they're promoting, so listen to that. And then Lincoln is going to talk about the online logistics platform. This online logistics platform is key to our meetings that we're setting. So Advocacy Associates is actually setting the meetings with the congressional staff and also the Congress people or senators in some cases. Mostly we're meeting with congressional staff. So they're doing that, and they're also will have access to an online service to so that we can see which meeting we're in and who's in the meeting with us and so on. Then Jeff's going to do an overview of the talking points, and then we're going to do a practice session and role play. I'm hoping that we'll have 30 minutes for this, so let's see how that goes. And again, I've never run such a large Zoom session. But what we'll do is we'll be in breakout rooms, and then we'll be practicing with each other. We'll be practicing with 2 other people, might be 3 other people, about what we're going to say to the folks that we're meeting with, the congressional staff or the Congress members or the senator. Okay, so next up, some of you attended our fly-in last year. I just wanted so you guys can get for those that didn't. I just want to give you a feel for like what we did. So this is my brother Jeff, right? And he's talking to Colin Peterson. He's actually giving Colin Peterson an award. You'll see that we gave awards to people we talked to people, we sat in conference rooms with people and chatted with the staffers. So hopefully you can hear this okay. And my Zoom toolbar is in the way for me to play this. Let's see if I can do it. Okay, so hopefully everybody was able to hear this. And that wasn't too broken up because I had a couple people I was letting in while I was playing that. Hopefully Zoom can do all those things at once. Okay, so here are our speakers, myself and my brother Jeff, Stephanie and Lincoln from Advocacy Associates. Here are some housekeeping items. First of all, if you're not speaking, please put yourself on mute. Use the chat to submit questions. Jeff is monitoring the chat for questions while I'm speaking. I'll be him. We did have the materials from the FedEx welcome pack. If you didn't receive it and your name begins with M or your last name begins with M or N, that's because we had so many people that we ran out of materials and I had to print a whole bunch more. And so we sent those out on Monday. So you should get your FedEx pack by the end of the week. I want to introduce Meredith Cosette with appropriations forms. Meredith was an intern on the Hill, so she's familiar with Hill operations. And so we're the critical thing that we want to get out of these meetings is one is to get our educate our congressional staff, educate our Congress people, our senators, and then get the constituent appropriations forms because that's how appropriations works. So you have to fill out the forms in order to get appropriations. And then of course we are recording this. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of background, 3 minutes on this. For those of you that have seen this before, just bear with me. Thank you. Okay, we are Center for Lyme Action. We are a 501c4. You all may have heard of 501c3s. Those are nonprofits that when you give money to a 501c3, it's tax deductible. A 501c4 is a very special kind of nonprofit. It is a nonprofit that can do unlimited lobbying. And that's why we chose to form this type of organization as our unlimited lobbying ability. So we can talk as much as we want. That's exciting. Let's see. I'm muting a few people here. Okay. All right. Hopefully that worked. Okay, so we are a 501c4. That means that when you if you make a donation or give a gift to Center for Lyme Action, it is not tax deductible, and that's how the tax law works. But we appreciate all of our members, especially our charter members. I'm here in one of our charter members' offices today because my internet is not very good at my house. I'm at the Bay Area Lyme Foundation, and I want to thank Linda Giampa, the Executive Director of Bay Area Lyme, for allowing me to use the office today. Our mission at Center for Lyme Action is to grow federal funding for Lyme disease. It's very simple. It's all we're trying to do. The reason that we want to focus on the money is because the more money that we can get on Lyme disease, the more action the federal government can make. We use a professional approach. We hire professional lobbyists. My brother Jeff Crater is one of our speakers today, is also co-founder of Center for Lyme Action. He is a professional lobbyist. I think he uses a different term than that, but he'll tell you all about that. Okay, and when you're a professional lobbyist, he is advising us on how to advocate for Lyme research, particularly in the legislative and executive branches of the federal government. There is a tried and true technique. It works like clockwork. Jeff's going to tell you about how successful we were last year in adding $36 million to to the budget for Lyme disease across several agencies. And so what we're doing actually works very well. When running an organization, it's very important to have strong values. I believe strongly in this because it sets the tone of how we show up, right? First of all, we are bipartisan. We talk to Democrats, we talk to Republicans, we talk to independents. The ticks don't care if you are a Democrat or Republican. So we are bipartisan. Second is we are inclusive. So we want to represent as many points of view as possible around Lyme disease. There's lots of points of view around Lyme disease, so we're going to try to represent as much as we can. Not too much, because then you get distracted, but and defocus. But we try to be as inclusive as possible. We recognize that a lot of people with Lyme are sick. We want to be humane in our communications with folks that are sick, this is we're trying to serve this group of people and try to get them well through therapies and diagnostics that we're trying to promote through the federal government. Lastly, we believe in science. Science is going to solve our problem. So that's why we want to get this funding in place. We can get the research and the programs, federal programs in place that will help create a great diagnostic that works and a therapy for people with persistent Lyme disease. Just as a background on who we're focused in on. Okay, so on the left-hand side, here's Congress, and there's a House of Representatives and the Senate. We're focused on lobbying the House and lobbying the Senate. And so that's who we're talking to next week. The actual appropriations are these agencies in the executive, or departments in the executive branch. So first, of course, is Health and Human Services. And underneath Health and Human Services, there's a lot of departments underneath that, but the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, and the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, are under the HHS. The other area that's doing Lyme work is DoD, the Department of Defense, and specifically the CDMRP program that many of you are familiar with is in the Department of Army, actually. Okay, a little bit about appropriation season. So we run appropriations, the appropriation seasons runs from February through the end of the year. There's kind of two parallel processes that are going on here. There's the stuff that the government is doing, right? This is the stuff that the Congress they have meetings and markups and votes and things like that. And then there's the stuff that the executive branch is doing. So that's this blue, represented by this blue block. Then there are the things that we're to help encourage them to increase funding for Lyme disease. So here it is in more detail. So the president's budget typically comes out in February. Jeff is saying that because we have a new president and this year that the budget may be a little late. It might be March or April. He'll tell you more about that in a bit. But once the president's budget comes over from the president to Congress, then the Congress will hearings. I'm echoing now. Somebody's not on mute. Okay. And it's getting really tough. Let's see if we can find here. Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. All right, good. All right, we're back. All right, so we have budget hearings. There's appropriations committee markups. There's a vote on the floor. There's a conference between the House and the Senate, and then eventually the appropriations bills do get signed into law. The last 2 years they've been signed into law in December. Last year's bill was signed on December 27th, so the very end of the year. So this basically works kind of like clockwork, with some adjustments into the timing, but this is the schedule for what happens when you're trying to get more money into a particular area. And those kinds of bills are called appropriations. So if we're having our fly-in here in February, we're going to fill out a constituent appropriations request. We're going to work with members to encourage other members to approve our appropriations requests through their member letters. We usually send out a Lyme community letter to the appropriations committees and then to the conferees when the House and Senate representatives from the House and the Senate side are negotiating their budget. And then, of course, we have, hopefully we'll be able to celebrate again. If we weren't in COVID, of course, we'd have some face-to-face meetings with some member staff, but that's not happening this year. at least not right now. So right now we are concentrating on the beginning part of this cycle here. We're doing the fly-in. This is where we meet with people. This year it's virtual over Zoom. And then we are going to work on our appropriations request so we can get our oar in the water and get more money for Lyme. So here's what you're going to do next week in your meetings. So on February 23rd, we'll have a short kickoff session, and we'll have a short kickoff session.
Okay, good. I got it. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm putting Fern on mute. There we go. So in the meetings, you will introduce yourself. You'll make asks. You know, there's 6 asks, so don't kill us. We have 6 things that we want to ask for, and then we're going to ask for the forms, and then of course say thank you. The people that we're meeting with, they work really hard for us. They're generally want to listen to us. Generally want to help us. So it's really important to say thank you. Okay, so that was an introduction. I see there were 52 comments in the chat. Probably people saying hi to each other. I'm going to turn this over to Stephanie. Stephanie, you ready for me to transfer control over to you? I'm going to stop sharing. Hey, Stephanie, are you on mute?
Yeah, I think we have to unmute her.
Do I have to unmute Stephanie? If I can find her in this crowd. Stephanie, where are you?
How about now?
Okay, there we go. All right, so Stephanie, I'm going to stop my sharing so you can share.
Great. And I think you need to, let's see, host disabled participant screen sharing. So you need to go over my name, and you should see 3 little dots that makes me a co-host. You seeing anything like that?
Yeah, I'm seeing make host.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. I promise I won't use my power for evil.
Okay, that sounds good. Stephanie?
Okay. Yeah, I'm still getting that. Let's try one more thing.
Yeah, thanks everybody for your patience. This is our first big Zoom with our Lyme folks here.
All right, I'm still getting the same issue, Bonnie. So,
Oh, you know, I actually have your slides. I think you need to
oh,
make,
why don't we do that? That's probably easiest.
I think you actually have to make me the host now.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, and I will go find your slides.
Okay, it's not letting me do that. Oh boy.
Okay, hang on a second. Stephanie, you are the host.
Yeah, and so what I'm trying to do right now is it's not letting me do anything to make you the host.
Uh-oh.
So I am very confused as to why that's the case. Can you go scroll over my name and see if you can ask to be the host back?
I'm right mousing on your name. Oh wait, I can do more. I can add my profile picture, or I can rename myself.
All right, that's kind of what I can do as well.
That's
Is there
weird.
another? Oh, you know what? I think you made a Stephanie with an F the host.
Oh, hey, Stephanie with the F. You're now the host.
That is not me.
All right, Stephanie with an F. Are you there?
Yeah, she's there and she was waving and smiling, and you know, she spells her name the wrong
I
way.
just heard host. No, not the wrong way. My mom's a fan of Heart to Heart, man. Stephanie Powers.
I don't know, with the F, I've got a problem with that, but we will still try and get along here.
So Stephanie,
You got it. I just made you the host. Yeah.
Great. So can you guys see my slides now?
yeah, we can. Thank you so much.
Oh, hey, no problem. I was like, what is going on? I know that works. It's probably the gods just saying they like the F's better. So let me just give you a quick overview of how to be effective in your meetings. And I actually come at this from the standpoint of a congressional staff person. I worked on the Hill for a long time. And, you know, when I was there, people would come in and talk to me and, you know, they would not be very effective in their messages. So I thought someone should tell them how to do that. So that's what I do now. And I'm the CEO of the firm that's scheduling the meetings. So, you know, you'll find that a lot of what we're figuring out with the meetings, doing it in this virtual environment, is actually making it even more effective in getting in touch and delivering your messages. So, you know, virtual advocacy, does it even work? People ask me that all the time because, you know, it's different. But actually a recent report found that it does. A Congressional Management Foundation asked staffers and members, you know, how is this going with the virtual stuff? It was phrased much better. And they said that offices are having more numerous and more substantial interactions with constituents, and they're likely to do this in the future. So the fact that you all are sort of being on the cutting edge of this is great, because you are going to be one step ahead of all the rest of the organizations when it comes to doing this in the future. We're going to be doing virtual fly-ins and perhaps hybrid fly-ins for a long time, because as Bonnie noted, it also gets the more advocates engaged, which is great. So even if you're doing a virtual fly-in though, there are still 4 key elements of effective advocacy. And these are, you're going to apply this in any communication you have with the legislative office. And they are knowing what you want, knowing who you're talking to, knowing how to talk to them, and knowing how to follow up. So I'm going to go through these. And Bonnie, I believe the slides will be available after the session.
You bet.
Okay, good. Just so people don't feel like they have to scribble everything down. And you're recording it, so you can enjoy this over and over and over again. So first of all, knowing what you want. The most important thing, and Bonnie touched on this, and I know you'll hear it from your folks in the lobbying community, your lobbyist, is making the ask. A lot of times people would come into the office and they would say sort of generic things, you know, about things that are important, but they wouldn't actually make an ask in the form of a question. And you guys are in a great situation because you have all kinds of questions, you have all kinds of asks that are very specific. So we those policy asks, and I know that Jeff's going to go over those in a minute. But for example, you know, you would say to the legislator or staff person, will you agree to fund the Kay Hagan Tick Act at $30 million total? And I know that's one of your asks. And it has to be in the form of a question, because that switches the little switch in their head that says, oh my gosh, they're asking me a question. How do I answer that? And so the question is very important. You may not have an answer. They may not be able to give you an answer right away, but you're saying to them, I'm asking a question and it's important enough for me to know what the answer is. And then you also need to provide that solution. So when you're talking about the problem, you're saying, you know, here you're telling your story, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but the solution is that item that's in the form of a question. So that's knowing what you want. It's really important to go in and, having reviewed the materials, have your policy asks ready. We'll talk in a moment about relationship asks, which are going to be sort of more online for the future. But the key here is that legislators and staff people want to know why you're in the office and what you want. They like to do a little chit chat about the weather and such, but don't waste an opportunity on, you know, that kind of stuff, since you have some really important things to talk to them about. So step number 2 is knowing who you're talking to. And what I suggest to people there is to know what gets them up in the morning and what keeps them up at night. And so what gets them up in the morning is usually a policy issue that they love. They campaigned on it. They talk about it all the time. And unfortunately, sometimes it's not your issue. So when you go into their office, they're happy to see you, or when you call them on the phone, they're happy to talk with you. but it may not be something that's really at the top of their agenda. Now, if you know what's at the top of their agenda, you can sometimes tie what you're talking about to what they care most about. And I'm not saying, ignore your issues. You definitely want to raise those, but just remember you're raising them in the context of someone who may also have other priorities. And then what keeps them up at night is usually re-election. Now, I raise that because I do not want you to be on the phone saying, hey, I know you have re-election coming up, and so that's why you should support us. They always have a very strong fight between the policy side and political side. So that's not something to raise your mind, that's something that they do think about. So the key things about what you need to know, these are the 3 things that I strongly suggest, and Lincoln's going to go over the web platform to help you identify how to figure some of these things out. So first of all, their committee assignments. Their committee assignments will tell you a great deal about what they're most interested in. So if you've got someone on appropriation, you're golden, they're really engaged in all of these issues. If you've got someone on agriculture, you could make a connection there, obviously, with Lyme disease. But you really want to figure out their committee assignments so that you can tailor your message and have a good sense of what they're going to be most receptive to. You also want to know their policy interests. So what kinds of bills they've introduced, how they talk about things. And a great way to do that is to go to their website and read their issue statements. Every legislator has something on their site that says policy issues or issues, and read everything, not just about healthcare issues, but read about the other items that they're interested in. So I noticed that there was some in the chat about veterans issues. If you see a statement about that, because I know Lyme disease can be something that impacts the military, if you see a statement about that on their website, that's always really great to know when you go in. And that's always a good angle for most members of Congress. So again, for their policy interests, go to their website, take a look at their issues papers. You can also look at legislation they've introduced. And then the final thing to know is where they are on the political spectrum. And I'm not saying that so, you talk to Democrats, you talk only to Democrats or only to Republicans, but to have a sense of, how they see the world when you walk in the door or dial the phone. So, if you're going to talk to a really liberal Democrat, you're probably going to frame your arguments in slightly different ways than you would with really conservative Republicans. And again, I don't want to suggest that you don't deliver your messages. You definitely want to deliver your messages. These are ideas for just being strategic about how you go about it. So speaking of how you go about it, step 3 with effective advocacy is knowing how to talk to them. And a couple tips there. First of all, remember to spit, and by which I don't mean spit at your legislators, which you can't do anymore, but don't even do it when you see them in person. It's an acronym because you must have a daily acronym here in Washington, D.C. And let me just check. I think because I'm the host now, I have to admit the people that are in the waiting room, which I just did. So it's an acronym because we are required to have acronyms in Washington, D.C. And those, it's specific, personal, informative, and timely. So what I mean by that is specific is, as I've mentioned, to be very specific about what it is you want, because you don't want to have a conversation with them that is, very positive about, what you're going through, how you live with the condition, how your loved ones live with the condition, how you care for people with the condition. That's a great conversation, but you want to be specific about what they can do for you. Personal, that's the personal story, and you guys have great personal stories. You really want to help them connect the strange things that happen in Washington, D.C. with what goes on in their districts and states. And then the I is informative. So you told your personal story, but you also want to be able to put it in the context of some facts and figures, which Jeff will be giving you, your lobbyist will be giving you, and your materials give you. But also don't start getting too worried about, I can't remember the authorization numbers from 1984 or the appropriations levels from FY, 72. If you don't know the answer to a question that they ask you, you just say, I don't know, I'll get back to you. And then you get back to them, which is a step many people skip. And then the T is timely. So you guys are making your asks at a perfect time. because as Bonnie pointed out, you're in the appropriation cycle, and the appropriation cycle may be a little bit chaotic this year, but you're still making these asks at a great time, and the staff people, as you'll see, you definitely want to get the forms from the staff people about the specific appropriations asks. Oops. So to keep all of this in mind, this is my message formula. You don't have to use this. You don't have to be very specific about it, but it does help to integrate all the stuff I just said into one conversation. Now, you're going to be having conversations probably as a group. So you're going to want to coordinate ahead of time about who says what, who makes which ask, who's the appropriate person with a personal story for each ask. But this is a way that you can sort of lay it out. And you start with, hello, my name is, and I'm from. So that's where you say your name and where you're from. Pretty good so far. And that helps establish your relevancy to the elected official. So you're saying, I am a constituent from your district, and that really makes a difference with them. Then you say, I'm here to talk to you about, and that's just sort of introducing that general issue of, the appropriations process and some of the programs that are in the federal government. Then knowing of your interest in, this is where you might work in a little bit of information about your audience. So, you might say, I saw, that you're interested in veterans issues. Let me tell you about, the impact in the military. This is important to the people I represent because, and that's where you tell your personal story. And then that's why I really hope that you will. And that's where you make the ask. So that's why I really hope that you'll fund the Kay Hagan Tick Act at $30 million total. Will you fund the Kay Hagan Tick Act at $30 million total? And remember, it has to be like a question. And then of course you want to make sure you get their contact information and their appropriations forms, as you'll hear a little bit more about. Now, just to wrap things up, step 4 is knowing how to follow up. So you figured out what you want, you figured out who you're talking to, you figured out how to talk to them, and now you know how to follow up. And there's several things to do there, even in this virtual environment. So local virtual meetings, try and get used to the Zoom platform or the Teams platform or whatever, the carrier pigeon platform, I don't know. But make sure that you have a way to meet with them virtually, especially the local staff, which a lot of people don't spend time meeting with. You also want to do written communications like emails, kind of follow up with them on that, sending them interesting tidbits. Don't bug them, every day, but do try and keep on their radar, especially during the appropriation seasons. You can do virtual site visits, so you can, carry your phone around with you and take them to a patient advocacy group or take them around a hospital, just to show them, sort of what people are dealing with this condition. Teletown halls are a big thing. A lot of members of Congress are setting those up. So if you see your member of Congress is, definitely join one. And of course, social media. These are the key outlets that legislators and their staff use. Almost everyone is on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. These are some of the others: Instagram, LinkedIn, Medium, Flickr, Snapchat. I wouldn't worry about these unless unless one of the super hipster members of Congress aren't on the top 3. But I'd really focus in on those top 3 for your social media sites. Some best practices on social media: identify yourself as a constituent, engage positively. This isn't the place to say mean things about the legislator. And remember that hashtags are your friends. It really helps you and your association search on, the specific things that you're talking about so that everyone can be most effective in delivering the message. So that's pretty much what I had. And what we'll do is I'm going to turn it back to Bonnie, if that works. All right, make host. Bonnie, you're up.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing all that with us. Oh, now you're seeing my calendar. That's probably not what you want to say.
I feel bad for you.
Let's see. All right, here we go. So Stephanie, thank you very much for joining us and giving us all this kind of interesting tips. You've obviously had years and years of experience doing this. I'm actually in my 2nd year, and so I'm still learning, and I'm learning from Jeff, I'm learning from you, and I guess now we'll learn something from Lincoln. So
I'd like the record to reflect as you're turning it over to him that you just called me old. Teasing.
Okay, so Lincoln, are you on? You may have to come off mute.
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome. And so I am going to make you the host, because I kind of messed up when I set this up. So I actually have to make you the host.
No problem.
All right, here you are, right at the top. And then you're going to make me the host when you're done.
Okay.
Okay, so now you're the host, Lincoln.
Great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lincoln Clapper. I'm in charge of sales over here at Advocacy Associates, and I wanted to walk you through a logistics overview of how you're going to be getting your schedules for next week and how to navigate that particular platform. I know that they were already sent out earlier today, so you should all have an email from us. And so I'm going to walk you through a step-by-step on how to navigate the platform. And hopefully, as I'm doing this, it will answer any questions you have. I'm going to ask if anyone has questions to put them in the chat box, and we can answer them after my portion of the slide deck is done. So that being said, I will share my screen here and we'll just jump into it.
Thank you, Lincoln.
So you, as I mentioned, you should have already gotten a email from us. It will look something just like this. It'll say your name, and you can click here to view your schedule. Go ahead and click on the URL. It will automatically log you in to your schedule. You don't have to create an account. You don't have to create a password. It's already been created for you. And so you'll simply click on the URL to view your individual schedule. Now, once you do that, you'll see a platform that looks just like this. You'll see all of your confirmed meetings on the top part of the page. There are pending meetings still out there because we haven't confirmed all of them yet to this point. So you'll see those fall to the bottom part of your page. All times that you see listed on your schedule will be in the Eastern time zone. This is uniform across everyone's schedule. And so it doesn't matter if you live in California or Arizona or Texas, they will all be displayed in Eastern time zone. We have taken into account where you live. So for you folks in California, you won't have any early meetings. You'll have meetings that take place hopefully during normal business hours throughout the course of the day. But just as a reminder, every time that you'll see on your schedule is in the Eastern time zone. Now you'll click into each meeting in order to access the content for that meeting. And so when you click into it, it will take you to a page that looks like this. You'll see the date and time of your meeting at the top of the page, followed by the office, who you're meeting with in that office. So if you're meeting with a staffer, if you're meeting with a member, if you're meeting with both, like in this example, you'll see that information displayed there. If you have a meeting lead assigned to your meeting, sort of like your meeting captain, for example, you'll see that person's name displayed there. If not, it will you won't see any content there. Beneath that will be the Join Online Meeting button. And so if you have a green Join Online Meeting button for your meeting, that is the video component. And so you'll click on that when the meeting time comes to join the Zoom portion of that meeting. If you don't see a green button there, that means the meeting is audio only. And so then there will be particular dial-in information beneath that. But for 9 out of 10, probably 95 out of 100, to be honest with you, we'll have a video component. And so you'll be able to click on that and that will open up, again, the Zoom platform. If you want to dial in, you can always dial in. You don't have to join via video, but that information will be listed beneath it. In the upper right-hand portion will be your talking points. These are obviously examples, and you'll have specific talking points for your event in your platform, and you'll see that when you log in. There will be a documents section beneath that. As we collect these documents from Bonnie and her team, you'll see your talking point pages will be displayed there, any fact sheets, any PDF, any relevant materials that will be necessary to reference, you'll see that information there. And you'll simply click on that. It will open up in a separate tab. It won't take you away from your schedule. Beneath that will be the attendees who are in your meeting. You'll have some contact information there, which will allow you to reach out ahead of time and connect with each other on your own separate prep calls, or if you want to introduce each other, you're able to do that. You can also message each other through the platform. So if you click on the chat box, it will open up a peer-to-peer chat function. So you're able to message each other separately through the platform. And you'll get a notification about that via email if somebody does message you in the platform. On the left-hand side will be your report forms. So before each meeting, make sure you click the check-in button. we'll be sending an attendance report to Bonnie and Jeff after the event showing who checked in and who did not. So please make sure you check in. Beneath that will be a thank you email. So this will prompt a pre-written thank you email that will go to Capitol Hill on your behalf. So it will come from you. There's two ways to open it. You can either click the open email button, and if you have a native email platform on your computer, it will open up via that mechanism. So for example, I have Outlook, and my computer creates an automated Outlook email. Now, if you don't have anything like that, that's perfectly fine, because you can then copy and paste that information with the modules beneath that into your Gmail or your Yahoo or whatever you're using on a separate tab in your browser. The meeting report form will be a list of questions that will be that have been provided to us. I'm not sure if these have been onboarded yet or not, but they will be particular to your specific meetings. Go ahead and fill this out. We'll send this report to Bonnie and Jeff post-event so they can come through and quickly see how the meetings, what kind of content was provided by the office in terms of how your meetings went. The take notes section beneath that is just essentially a blank notepad. It allows you to take notes if you don't have pen or paper available. It's optional. You don't need to use it, but it is a resource if you want to utilize it. Beneath that is the member attend, did not attend. So you will actually click if the member attended or did not attend this meeting. This will just help us get an accurate reporting of if the member of Congress showed up or not. As for those of you who have participated last year, we may have scheduled this meeting with the member of Congress, but they get pulled away to votes, or they're running late from a previous meeting and they're not able to make it. We want to make sure we get an accurate accounting of that. So just go ahead and mark that at the end of each meeting, whether the member of Congress showed up to or did not. And lastly, there will be some social media share buttons for those of you who are Twitter or Facebook savvy. You're able to share this content the day of the event and start a social media trend. Once the meeting concludes, you'll click on the Meetings tab at the top part of the page. It will take you back to the home page, and you will just work your way down from one meeting to the next throughout the course of the day. The Legislators tab will take you to more in-depth information for each of your legislators. So when you click on that, you'll be able to access a bio for each member of Congress. You'll have links to all their social media pages. So if you want to go directly to their Facebook page or their website or look up their Twitter handle, you're able to do that. If there's any particular bills that you're tracking, and this will be again in consultation with Bonnie and Jeff, you may not be, but if you are, it will show that bill information here along with the vote history on that bill. There will also be a news section. So it's just a basic API that we have integrated. It will pull any news mentions that legislator has been mentioned in, via cable or print or internet. You can do some more research there and just read up on what's been going on in that member of Congress's life. And their committee assignments. So as Stephanie mentioned earlier, you'll be able to look up what committee assignments each member is on. On the home page here, there's three other options at the top you should be aware of. The Messages tab. This is just an area where you access your peer-to-peer messaging, very similar to the text messages on your phone. The directory will allow you to contact any advocate in the organization, so it's not just limited to the people in your meetings. And the support tab is what you will click on if you're having any scheduling conflict issues or any technical assistance. That will come directly to us and we'll make sure to get that taken care of. On the far right is a More tab. There's some other additional extra resources there that you can play around with and utilize. Some of them are optional, some are not. So you can go ahead and see what content's available there. If for some reason you get logged out of your schedule or you click and get brought to a page that looks like this, do not try to enter a username or password. Simply just click on the Send Me a Sign-In link and it will take you to a page where you fill in the email address that you registered for the event with. So it's just simply put in your email address, click Send Email. You'll get a new link from us that will automatically log you in. If for some reason that still doesn't work, you can click on the Support tab. You'll fill out a quick 3-question questionnaire. It will come directly to our team, and then we'll be in touch shortly to get that resolved. Last slide here, just some relevant information to keep in mind for the day of the event. Please call into each meeting or access it via video 5 minutes prior to the start time. This just ensures that you've gotten any technical concerns out of the way, any hiccups out of the way. Maybe you're running late, maybe your Wi-Fi was down for a minute. That way, when the congressional office joins, you're starting right on time. Again, all meeting times are listed in the Eastern time zone. And just to make sure you're on schedule, you actually will receive a reminder email from us 1 hour prior to every meeting throughout the course of the day, reminding you that you have a meeting in 1 hour. So if in case you haven't done the time zone conversion properly, or you've lost track of the day, you will still get a reminder from us 1 hour prior to each meeting. You're able to contact us via that mechanism if you're not able to make that particular meeting. If an office doesn't join your meeting within 10 minutes past the start time, go ahead and hang up or close the Zoom platform and contact us and let us know. We really would like to get out in front of that and proactively try to reschedule for later in the day. Some of you have a very full schedule. And so rather than hanging on the line for 15, 20, 30 minutes, knowing that the staffer or the office just isn't going to join because they've missed it, we would rather know about that and get out in front of it. So give them 10 minutes of buffer time to join. If by that point, no one has joined, go ahead and contact us and we will get in touch with the office. And again, our help number will be listed in the support tab. So you can call us if it's time sensitive rather than just filling out the questionnaire. Please know that your meetings have been scheduled in 15-minute blocks. Now they may end early and more often than not go longer, especially in the virtual environment. That's definitely what we've seen. Most are about 20 minutes, but from a practicing standpoint and a preparation standpoint and formulating your talking points, which Bonnie and Jeff will get into more depth here later, please know you've only got 15 minutes with the office to make your pitch. Any changes to your schedule will be sent to you via email, so please make sure you're checking that regularly throughout the course of the day. What I mean by that is any time changes or a meeting gets canceled or if a meeting gets added, you will be updated via our system via email. Last couple items here, just make sure you're in an area with good Wi-Fi connection throughout the course of the day. Please mute your microphone if you're not speaking. I think that's a lesson well learned on this webinar. Everyone should take away from. And last, importantly, please know your audience. Make sure you have an appropriate background when you're speaking with these offices. You'll be speaking with both Democrats and Republicans, so just please be sensitive of that, whatever is behind you in your camera. That being said, looking forward to working with you all again this year, and I will turn it back over to Bonnie. If there's any questions in the chat box, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Lincoln. Okay. Can you hear me, Lincoln?
Yep.
Great. Hey, there was a couple things that came up on the in the chat. So some of us, including myself, did not get the email. Is that because Sarah's working through getting the emails out to everyone, or what's up?
Correct. Yes.
So probably by the end of the day, everybody will get an email, I imagine.
Yeah, within today or tomorrow. Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow. Okay. All right. So if you didn't get an email, don't feel bad. I didn't get one either. So I'll keep looking as well. So
mine, just for information, mine was labeled Advocacy Day. So if you're looking, if you get a lot of emails, that's what you should look for. There
was a mix-up, so you may have gotten several emails, but we've gotten that fixed, and so the link will also take you to the correct page, even if you're clicking on the wrong version of the schedule that was sent out.
Okay, great. All right. And then the question is around the login. So is there when you click on the link, does it allow you to create a login?
No, it automatically logs you in.
Automatically, and okay. So then the one question was during the meetings with the with the staff member, or sometimes it's a representative, but usually it's a staff member. What will, when they log in to the meeting into the Zoom, will they be on video automatically? What will the person see? Will it be? Is there a setting that's set previously?
It will be however they're accessing it. So if they dial in, then they'll just have a icon with a phone. If they're accessing it via video, then it'll be just like this webinar.
Yeah, great. And I think that, here's a question. Should we fill out some info about ourselves in the directory tab? Is that a good idea?
You can, sure. It's all internal. So the only people who have access to this platform are yourselves. So the congressional staff does not, members of Congress do not. So if you feel like you want to fill that out and share some more information about yourself, yeah, more than welcome to edit that.
Okay, so what is the video meeting. Business casual, wear a scarf. Well, definitely wear your scarf for sure. What do you recommend on dress, Lincoln?
Yeah, definitely business casual. I think that would be appropriate for this setting.
Okay. Let's see if there's anything else. Different people are trying out the links and they're having different experiences, so we'll just sort that out later, I guess. Thank you very much. And so thank you, Lincoln, and thanks, Stephanie. Please, I thanked her before, but thank you very much for presenting to us. You know, this sort of general information is super helpful for us in how we're operating. I'm going to share my screen again. Next up is I want to introduce my brother, Jeff. Jeff is our lobbyist at Center for Lyme Action, and he's going to go through some slides. The first set of slides are about what we did last year. So there's 3 slides on that, and it looks like we have 4 people in the waiting room. So I'm going to admit them. Okay. And then okay, Jeff. So I'm going to
take it away, right?
Go for it, man.
All right. Good. Well, thanks to Stephanie gave a great overview. You know, she's a professional, and so when you're in meetings, the guidelines and those broad, you know, sort of 4 guidelines are sort of good and best practices to follow for sure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first talk a little bit about what happened this past year when we did the real fly-in, and then all the follow-up during all the sort of shutdown. But it actually didn't really affect our advocacy. We kept the drumbeat going, and we're pretty successful. So, you know, kind of what really launched us as an organization was, you know, we rolled out the organization in the fall of 2019 and really got to work, having been contacted by Senator Collins' office. We went in and spoke with them and said, hey, we've got this bill that's been kicking around. It's got a few co-sponsors, but we really need to move it. So we said, well, that's what we're in business to do. And sure enough, we worked very, very rapidly to try and get as many co-sponsors as we possibly could. So we went from about 6 or 7 up to about 33 United States senators on the bill. Typically, getting 10 to 15 is a lot. So we just overwhelmed them, which was fantastic. And so that gave Senator Collins and Tina Smith, the Democrat that was a lead sponsor of the bill, the authority to get this bill signed into law within literally like 6-8 weeks after we started working on it. So this is kind of a foundational piece that we've worked on. It authorizes $150 million over 5 years. That's $30 million a year. 10 goes to the regional centers of excellence, and another 20 goes to CDC grants in the states and with tribal nations. So next slide. So CDC is already off to the races working on it. We noted that they put out this past fall a framework for prevention and control of vector-borne disease in humans. Not exactly everything we wanted, but it's a good start. So we're optimistic, and lo and behold, and I'll cover this in a minute. You know, we actually got some appropriations assigned to this effort. Again, it's kind of a nose under the tent situation where you get a little bit of money one year, and then things can hopefully blossom and open up more in following years. So next slide.
Would it
So-
be possible to put the links in the chat, or are these available offline?
The links to
Like the CDC thing that you just on the last slide, and
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. We could probably cut and paste that and put that in the chat.
thank you.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, so moving on to the next slide. So just to review what we did last year, we got a 65% increase in federal funding for Lyme disease. We went from 55 million in FY20 to 91 million. And 91 million, this is huge. You know, three years ago, you know, we were looking at money that was probably in the 30 to 40 million dollar range. So we've really almost doubled our effort in the last 3 years. So that's good news. We got $10 million in new funding at NIH, at the National Institute for Health. NIAID is the National Institute underneath that. So a total of $63 million, both what in the president's budget request, which was $53 million plus another 10. We got $5 million dedicated to the K-Hagen Tick Act. And while that's not $30 million, which is what we're going to be asking for this year, it's a good start. And having good starts, getting some money in the appropriations bills sets a precedent that they're going to fund it again the following year, hopefully at a much higher rate. We also got an increase in the operating budget for CDC. That's been kind of, it's been going up by $2 million every year, which is fantastic. In previous years, it kind of stayed at a, lulled along at about $12 million or $10 million, not moving the needle. So advocacy does work. Lastly, we held the line at the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program, the Tick-Borne Disease Research Program at the Department of Defense at $7 million. We're going to ask again for an increase of $5 million in a moment. So all this was signed into the law into the omnibus appropriations bills at the end of December, just about 2 months ago. So next, I'm going to talk to you a bit about our talking points for these meetings. And you've already heard a lot. I mean, just how you're supposed to behave in the meeting, how you're supposed to approach the staffers, all this technology that we're working with. I mean, I know this is kind of a lot to understand and a lot to take in. It is for me, and I do this for a living. So just so you know, we're going to be reviewing this again on February 23rd. You'll get some paper to look at and to read, and the technology side should be pretty user friendly once you get in and use it. And by the fifth or sixth meeting, if you're in 5 or 6 meetings, by the very last meeting you're in, it should be fairly user friendly. So moving on to what we're going to be asking either the staffers you're going to be meeting with or a member of Congress or a United States Senator. Now it's pretty intimidating, even to see your United States Senator on the screen, wondering why you're here to meet with them. But suffice to say, they meet with people all the time, and they really, really want to listen and understand what you want. Now, when you have a member of Congress, they're on a different timeline. They may be only there for like 10 minutes, and I think Lincoln said 15 minutes is your time frame. More often than not, they're backed by a staffer who will continue the meeting and take in the information that's there. But 15 minutes for a member of Congress is about typical, and then they move on, and typically they'll have staff come in and receive the rest of the information. So if that does not happen, it's not the end of the world. We'll make sure we get the whatever information is into the office so they can put their requests into the Appropriations Committee. Okay, next slide. So before your meeting, I think Lincoln in the app, you're supposed to either the app indicates who the lead is going to be meeting. We're asking you to pick a lead before your meeting. That's going to be the principal spokesperson for that particular meeting, and then you can rotate as meetings go on, or you keep the same person. You can do it on a rotating basis, or as again stick with the same person. So that's important to have a spokesperson. So next slide. So what to do in your meetings? Well, of course, introduce yourself. Tell them where you're from. You'll be in meetings, say, with your congressman in the House, and you may have 3 or 4 other people or 10 people in the meeting with you that may be from other congressional districts, live in other congressional districts. But you can say, yeah, I'm from, Congressman, I'm from your district. I'm from small town USA. And he says, oh, I've been to small town USA, and that's great. So you have that little bit of introduction. Staffers may be a little more reserved, but sometimes they can be friendly and lively. It just depends how many Zoom meetings they've had that day. But important for your introductions, keep it short. Then the next step is obviously to make the ask. We have 6 requests that we're going to be asking for. 5 of which are funding that come out of the Department of Health and Human Services. So it's what's called the Labor HHS Appropriations Bill. So 5 of those, that's the vast majority. And we have these listed in priority order from the requests we had last year to those that are new requests this year. So we've gone from 3 to 6 asks. So it's a bit of a mouthful, but I'm confident that all of you can get through it. And then once we go through those asks, we're going to ask for the forms. Now, you may meet with a member of Congress that does not submit appropriations, but do not take offense to that. Don't debate it, certainly, because that's a decision that they've made. There's other ways they can support us, and that is through the committee process, if they happen to be on the committee. If there's a vote on the House floor, if there are amendments on the House floor, we had this fantastic amendment where we increased Lyme disease by $4 million in FY21 on the House floor. Now, it didn't come out. We didn't get $20 million. We got 16 for CDC. But that's a time where members can step up and go, oh yeah, I met with some constituents on Lyme disease. I'm going to vote in favor of this thing because I know that that's important to them. So there's other ways, both near and long-term, they can support us, even though they're not going to submit a form. Now, some may say, well, we don't do forms, but if you submit a letter, an email, and attach the documents you're giving me now, we'll make sure it gets into our system. Now, the reason why forms and letters are so important is that they take that information, it's all electronic, they download it into their system. That system at the appropriate time is then transferred to the Appropriations Committee. And the Appropriations Committee considers all these requests from across the board. Because we have literally 200 to 230 range of requests coming in from all of you as participants, as advocates, times 6, so we have literally like 1,400 forms, individual forms that will be sent in to across the Congress. 1,400, there won't be 1,400 forms that go in necessarily, but there'll probably be 30, 40 members on the House side, and maybe a half dozen to a dozen senators at least will submit those requests to the committee. So the more we have, the bigger impact we have, and that's why it's so fantastic. We got so many of you participating today. So lastly, it's important to say a thank you. Thanks to the staffer and to the member of Congress. No matter what your political stripes are, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, some form of progressive, doesn't matter. You're talking to your elected representatives. They're going to help you no matter what your political stripes are. So that's important to know. Okay, next slide. So these are 6 appropriations asks. So fund the KA and Tick Act, that's been our priority at $30 million a year. Fund the NIH Lyme disease and other tick-borne disease research. We're asking for $83 million total this year, up from 63. Fund the peer-reviewed DoD congressionally directed medical research. That's what CDMRP stands for. Tick-borne disease research at $12 million. We have 7 right now in this fiscal year 21, but in FY22 we're asking for $12 million. And then the next one, these are the 5 new ones, all within the Department of HHS. They've developed a national public health framework for prevention and control of vector-borne disease in humans. So they developed this wonderful framework, but they don't have funding to do the implementation across agencies. And some of the agencies include agencies like huge departments, like Department of Defense, who have incredible research capability, like DARPA, who could be instrumental in working with the NIH in developing things like diagnostics and therapies that impact the military personnel. So that's what we're looking at. It's a first time request of $5 million. It's not a lot of money in the overall budget. So hopefully they'll be supportive of that. The next, we're very fortunate that the Stephen and Alexandra Cohen Foundation has provided to the government in a program called the Limex Innovator Accelerator program. So they provided $25 million over roughly a 5-year period. And unfortunately, on the back end, there doesn't seem to be monies to implement that program. Now they were smart enough. The outgoing Deputy Secretary Hargan of HHS, he provided $2 million this fiscal year to support that program. But now we have a new administration, and we'll have at some point a new secretary and a new leadership team at HHS. It's not guaranteed. So we're going to signal, we're signaling to Congress, and Congress could signal to HHS that this is an important program. Please fund it at $5 million. So finally, the last one, fund CDC, Lyme, and Tick-Borne disease, chronic disease prevention and health program. So at $5 million. Right now, Congress nor HHS has signaled that Lyme disease, and particularly persistent Lyme disease, is chronic. So this puts that on the radar screen to do things like important surveillance. So we know, we have some actual numbers and some data, so we know what's out there in order to properly address it from a therapy and cure standpoint and prevention standpoint, obviously. So next slide.
Okay, so Jeff, it's now 1:10, and if we're going to do any rehearsing at all, we should try to finish up your portion in the next 5 minutes. I don't know if that's possible or not, but maybe you can give it a go.
Okay, I will give it a go.
All right, great.
So as your introductory talking point, over the last decade, 500,000 Americans got Lyme disease, and 20% or 100,000 Americans still suffer from chronic Lyme every year. So that's point one. Point two, the diagnostics are unreliable. We know that. And there's no cure despite over $100 million in privately funded research. So this is what you're telling the staff or a member of Congress. So we need our government to be our public partner in diagnostic R&D and to find a cure. And we're here as your constituents to ask for your support to increase funding for Lyme disease prevention and research in the FY22 appropriations process. Next slide. So that's your opening, and then you'll go through each one of these, and I've done it in sort of a cursory fashion, and given the limited amount of time, I'm not going to go in incredible detail on each one. We already know, I've already talked about the K and Tick Act. That's our first request, $30 million total. So this next slide is funding for NIH, and we've gotten a big boost over the last 2 years. So we're asking for an increase of $20 million. We still don't have a reliable diagnostic, and while we have some therapies, we don't have a cure, and that's what we're aiming for. So you can use this example, which is pretty stark. Only $63 per patient funding for Lyme disease, which is far less funding than even more rare infectious diseases. So you look at Lyme cases, there's 476,000 under this new data as the CDC's come out with of Lyme disease cases each year. West Nile virus has a little over 2,600 cases, funded at $13,600 per patient. Malaria's got 1,700 cases. That's funded at a whopping $118,823 per patient. And Lyme gets 63. They'll immediately see, oh yeah, that doesn't seem right. So that's a good justification. My mind, hopefully they'll bite on that and accept it. So the third ask deals with congressionally directed medical research program. You know, probably this is an incredibly, for very little money, this is incredibly effective program. Unfortunately, they only fund about 13% of the proposals that come in. Those are the ones that they find that are compliant. There's a lot of they have to put in the trash can because they're not compliant with the rules, but there's literally dozens that are not funded. So we're asking for just a meager $5 million increase so we can fund more of these projects. So maybe we have 25 or 30% of the proposals that come in are funded. So that's the essence of that. So our fourth ask talks about the public health framework. And I talked a little bit about, this is for implementation. They've developed the framework, but they don't have money for implementation. So that's what that's for. And you can read that in a little more detail. And number 5 This is Limex. This is the public-private partnership with the Stephen and Alexandra Cohen Foundation. This is monies have been provided, and $2 million has been provided this year. But in order to sustain this and sustain these important programs like the prize competition for important diagnostic R&D and development, some education and awareness programs, bringing the public, bringing your voices into the mix on coming up with better diagnostics, better cures. That's what this money's for, and we need the implementation funding on the government side. Private sector's already delivered in a major way. So request number 6 is our next and last one, and that deals with persistent Lyme disease is a chronic illness. This is the second bullet, because U.S. public health definition of disease that persists for more than 3 months. Now we all know Lyme is unfortunately in many of our lives and for a lot more than 3 months. So it is chronic, and we're going to start to signal to not only Congress, but also Congress is going to signal to HHS this is chronic. So we can do things like surveillance of persistent Lyme disease and get a better handle on how many people actually have persistent Lyme disease. It's not only the number of cases, but it's how many people have these very chronic and acute symptoms. So, and once we have better knowledge on that and those numbers, we'll be able to be in a better position to address it. So those are our asks. Again, introduce yourself, make the ask for forms if they have them. And the other important thing about asking for forms, because these are the appropriations forms that we're going to ask you to fill out, we will on our end try to do as much of that spade work, including asking for forms ourselves even before you go into the meeting. And what we'll do is we will post that on the website, send you an email as well on what forms we have in hand by February 24th, or that we will tell you what the methodology is for submitting the requests after the meeting. If we don't submit the information after the meeting, even though you're taking all this time and meeting with them, in some cases, it's almost as if you haven't met with the office. It's doing the paperwork is very, very important. So that's why I'm emphasizing that now. And then of course, a simple thank you goes a long way with these staffers who work very, very hard for the members. And of course, don't hesitate to say thank you to your member of Congress. So after the meeting lead should answer the questions in the app. So there's some follow-up questions there. They're pretty simple, multiple choice. And then there's some text boxes which require, maybe a phrase or a couple word answer. So you don't have to write an essay. And then there's an opportunity that Lincoln pointed out to send a thank you note. So I think that's it.
That is it, Jeff. Thanks very much. I wanted to, on that ask number 6, I was thinking about that we have so many people that have chronic Lyme in the United States. I think it's a couple million people. But we don't actually have any surveillance. We don't actually have a count, an official government count. So that last ask number 6 is really important, because once you start counting, then we can ask for more money for people that have this disease. Okay, so we have 141. Actually, we have somebody else coming right now. So welcome, new person coming to the meeting. We now have 12 minutes left in the meeting. And what I'm going to do is we have 140 folks that are in the meeting right now. So if I take, in order to get groups of 3, 140 divided by 3, so that's 47 meeting rooms. So I'm going to actually put us in breakout rooms, and here's what I want you to do. So I want you to pick a lead presenter. So just have somebody be the speaker, and we're just going to do this once, and have the other people, one person be the listener and one person be the observer. The person that's listening, put the timer on, because we're going to cut this off at 10 minutes. I'm going to bring you back after 10 minutes. So make sure that you have a timer on so we don't go over. And observer take some notes and make a few comments. So, and then we'll bring back the room, and we'll have a close for this meeting so we can end on time. We may be 1 or 2 minutes over, but thank you very much for everyone's participation. So I'm going to put you in the breakout rooms right now.
Bonnie,
Yeah.
before you go, this is Sharon Wampler. There were several questions related to logistics in the chat. Are you going to be able to go over any of those?
Yeah. So once you Jeff and I will pour over those questions right now while you guys are in your breakout rooms, and then we will we'll put answers in there. I know there's 32 questions that are unanswered right now. Uh-oh. Okay, ready? I'm creating breakout rooms. Oh, it makes me click. I can't type into it. So I'm clicking 43 times. Okay. And these are gonna get assigned automatically. So we'll see you back here in 10 minutes. So it looks like the software is working.
Yeah, people are disappearing.
People are disappearing.
Bonnie, I'm supposed to be in room 27, it says.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be in some room too. Let's see.
As far as answering those questions in 10 minutes, that's gonna be a challenge.
Yeah, let's see if we can tackle it.
Okay,
So am I supposed to be in a room somewhere?
okay.
So Audrey, did you get assigned?
I don't know. I don't see any showing up.
Yeah, it's a pop-up, and maybe I wonder if maybe behind your this.
Oh, you know what? It's sorry, my connection. We've had major outages. I think maybe it's just being really slow. So I see it now.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
All right. Thanks.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
All right, so we're not going to join room 27, and
It looks like we have a few people that either weren't assigned or they're still waiting.
yeah. So Jeff Crater not joined. I see you. Let's see. I think it looks like everybody else is okay. There's Lauren.
No, I see six. There's 6 people below us.
Let's see. Lauren's supposed to be in room 13. Huh. Okay. Well, maybe people decide not to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. All right. Let's tackle these questions here. Let's see. Forget it. My chat window. Okay. Sorry, Bonnie and Jeff have to run. That's from Kiki. Okay.
Okay.
Let's say no problem, Kiki. All right. And Ryan Shear had to run. My disability states psychosomatic illness, not Lyme. That's too bad. Doctors acknowledge late stage Lyme. How can we educate them and hold them accountable? Well, we're gonna do that in another meeting. Faulty diagnostics, faulty surveillance. That's correct. Do the best you can.
Are you working from the bottom up?
Yeah, working from the bottom up. What steps are we taking to engage the medical community to seek insurance coverage for Lyme testing and treatment? So that one I'm going to answer. Is focused. Focused. Medical. Okay. Why can't the US government turn to the AVMA for Lyme stats? I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure what the AVMA is. This is from Kiki.
I don't know who that is either.
Okay, we'll have to research that. Oh, Kiki's not on anymore. All right, well, I'll go figure that out. Jeff, in your opinion, does it help our advocacy effort to draw comparisons with COVID long haulers?
I'm saying it does.
Are you going to answer that?
Yep.
Send it to everyone and copy the question in there.
Okay. Oh, I can make this bigger. All right, that's helpful. All right, let's see.
I'm actually going to copy all this into an email, like just cut and paste the whole darn thing. Yeah, that is a lot of comments. Catherine Zucker and I from Michigan plan on meeting again separately to practice. We were all paired up with Stephanie Plain. We don't see her on here. Can I email her with a request for contact info? Sure. All right, and we're going to have to bring these guys back in soon, and they're all going to be grumpy because they haven't had enough time to do anything.
Barely got 3 words out of their mouth.
Exactly. Everybody's going to be grumpy with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who is collecting data on post-COVID blow up of Lyme?
Here are the comments. You share your screen.
Sorry.
Okay, let's see. How do I get back in here? Break out rooms. And all right, so I'm going to close all the rooms, and that is going to give a notification. Hi, Monica. You're so nice to take time to join us.
Hi, how are you?
Good. It's awesome that you do this because you carry a lot of weight with our representatives.
Well, I'll try. I hope so.
Yeah. No, they care, and they will listen to what you have to say. Okay, so we have, everybody's coming back in 25 seconds, Jeff.
Sweet boy.
And some people are still here. Maybe they.
Bonnie, how you doing, sweetie?
Hey, Carol, how are you?
I'm good. I actually have a funeral that I have to go to. So
Sorry.
excellent. Wonderful. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you. You know,
Your
we'll
brother. Hi, Jeff.
we'll go on a hike.
Bonnie and Jeff, this is Jill. I think it's important for us to know who else we're working with, designated representatives that we have, and we should make connections with those people and work with them like in a breakout.
Okay.
Everybody turn off your microphones.
You can turn off everybody's microphone.
Okay, chaos resumes. All right.
Lively bunch.
It's a very lively bunch. Okay. So I'm sorry I had to bring you back so soon. I'm sure everyone's a little bit grumpy with me because you just got 2 words out of your mouth and then you're all of a sudden back here. So with that in mind, I did want to thank everyone for participating today. We will, Jeff and I are going to look at the app and make sure you have access to whoever you're supposed to be in various meetings with. And so we will just make sure that that's happening. It's possible that the database hasn't been populated fully yet and you just don't have access to the information. So we'll figure that out as well. And we'll communicate that to you. So look for an email no later than tomorrow from us. In the meantime, look for your FedEx packages and practice your, practice what you're going to say. I do want to just do a shout out to particularly to our charter members and our gold members and supporting members who fund this, basically fund this operation. They pay for our Zoom service, such as it is, and help pay for all of this this legislative activity. So big shout out to Bay Area Lyme Foundation, Project Lyme, Alex Cohen and Lori Woods for being charter members. What's next? Okay, so what's next is review the appropriations ask. We promise to get back to you on more instructions for appropriations forms, as well as just making sure that the database is populated and you have access to the information about who you're going to meet with. We are having a kickoff meeting on February 23rd. Jeff and I are going to think about another kind of practice session for everyone. And if you guys have any feedback, feel free to email to Jeff or I.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Folks on mute. Feel free to send an email to Jeff at centerforlymeaction.org or Bonnie at centerforlymeaction.org, and we will promptly respond as soon as we can. And then we are all looking forward to our meetings on the 24th, and it should be exciting. Thank you again, and feel free to reach out by email to Jeff and I.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.